Breaking news just in. Democrats just released a report about the 2024 election and their loss. This is that autopsy report, and it is incomplete, but it does paint a dismal picture for Democrats. It says the party has gone between stagnation and retrogression since Barack Obama's win in 2008, and that Democratic candidates have proven incapable of projecting strength, unity, and leadership, and voters have drifted away. Let's bring back MS Now Capitol Hill reporter Kevin Fry. And Kevin, I know you just are getting an initial look at this. It's 192 pages. I know you haven't had a chance to read through all of it, but based on what you're seeing so far, what are the big takeaways? What do we know about this report?
Yeah, about 20 pages in. I will say, look, one of the things that has stood out to me is one of the things they have in, quite frankly, the opening, which is that they argue that the reduction in support for and training for state parties has contributed to a shift in voter registration issues, organizing capacity for the state at the state level, and persistent problems with their candidates to listen to voters. They also see this as being somewhat of a contradiction when it comes to what voters are backing policy-wise versus backing and supporting their candidates, saying, for instance, voters have backed through referendums in states issues, for example, dealing with health care, abortion rights, the list goes on, things that Democrats might actually typically win on, but at the same time their candidates aren't necessarily winning on those issues. They also say that regaining trust and confidence in the party where voters have an affirmative reason to support Democrats will take a comprehensive strategy and considerable effort over multiple cycles. So this is not some sort of short-term change they're seeing here, saying that Democrats need to do it right now because the future could become even more difficult to do so. Still pouring through some of the kind of the contradictions they see between how Senate candidates did versus the presidential candidates did, where they see that Kamala Harris, for example, failed to get across the finish line compared to other candidates. So a lot more to unpack here, but those are just within the first dozen or so pages, some of the initial takeaways about the kind of structural messaging and favorability issues that the party sees with just the voting public.
What's up with the timing? Why are they releasing this now?
That's a great question. One of the things that is notable about this is that the DNC's own chairman is basically coming out and saying that, one, that there was essentially pressure on them to go ahead with this. And if I can pull up his statement here, 1 second. He said that he wanted to be honest and transparent with actionable and specific takeaways for the future of the Democratic Party. He says that when he initially received this report, it was not ready for prime time. And as you look through it, it's notable that there is, one, no executive summary, and two, there are lots of sections where you see comments from the DNC, from Ken Martin, basically saying this data doesn't add up, this number is wrong, where is the calculation to back up this claim? So not necessarily everyone on the same page, it seems, as to what the takeaways are here.
Yeah, you look at, as I'm scrolling through, I went right to where it was supposed to have the executive summary, and it's completely blank. One thing that we are finding, though, in this report is that they're noting a rural miscalculation that, quote, Harris wrote off rural America, assuming urban-suburban margins would compensate, and, quote, the math doesn't work. Kevin, 2028 isn't that far off.
It's not, and 2026 is going to be a big test case for this. Can Democrats manage to make inroads there? Part of their messaging strategy and part of the takeaway, another takeaway that I saw in this, is that the Bidenomics messaging, quite frankly, was just not landing with voters. If anything, it was turning them off. And Democrats have leaned into affordability as part of their 2026 messaging, seemingly trying to rebut that. It does help, of course, that under the Trump administration, we have seen gas prices surge over the last several months because of the Iran war, other health care related price concerns, for example, that have given Democrats ammo in that vein. And so will that affordability message, will that make an appeal that goes beyond just the typical Democratic voting demographics? Will they be able to re-secure some of those voters? I think that's part of what Democratic leadership here on the Hill has been betting on, and that could serve as somewhat of a roadmap heading into 2028.
Kevin Fry, thank you. We'll let you get back to reading this autopsy report from the DNC from 2024, and we know you'll bring us more highlights as you get them.